version because some idiot managed to erase the previous version. We're not pointing fingers at whoever that may be. So from there, speedy version, you can order camp shirt. Information's up there. It's going to be like an orangey color. And then you can resubmit your thing here. You have until Friday. Then make sure you resubmit your friend list so I can give you friends. And then final grammar quiz was for kids who are here. And then we're going to run through and do this. Look, I just condensed all that into no time at all. This time, some idiot's not going to hit the wrong button.
We do that.
Matthew, I need those 5 points. What's your list? Yesterday, and then you forgot about Matthew. That was very easy.
I'm a horrible person.
You are?
So bad.
That was the first day. Being nice on the first day. So again, we have a quiz tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Tomorrow's quiz that some of you guys are going to show up and be completely shocked that we have a quiz about.
We have a quiz?
These are the 15 answers that go onto it. It's going to be the 12 gods who have thrones, the 2 gods who gave up the throne, and then the one who tried to eat a whole bunch of them. And so those will be your 15 answers. You just have to match up this to the description of what they are going to be the god of. Excuse me, hiccup on that one. Should not be super tough. It's not trying to destroy your brains. Josie. Absolutely. You can use notes, and I even have a list. This list will be on the quiz. And so you can literally just look at it, and that is fine with me.
Wow.
Will be on Canvas.
I believe so. I'm making that decision, I think, between the two of you.
No.
Not
Whatever you do, not
not Socratic. It was going to be between Canvas and Canvas.
I think Canvas too.
So, yeah, I was not going to do Socratic. That one was easy. It's way too easy of a quiz for Socratic. Yeah.
We spell Dionysus matter.
It will-ish, because I will have these names spelled on there, and part of the directions will be like...
So you want us to spell how...
Yeah, like what you can honestly do is just copy and paste, and just go tap, tap, copy, tap, tap, paste, and just make it even easier. What's up, Raw Hill?
Do you have 2 attempts on this quiz, or is it just 1?
I'll probably give you 2 attempts.
Thank you. Do it one, just so easy.
What?
Alright, did we... It is easy, but I'm not that mean yet. Did we start the human story yesterday?
No,
Okay.
not really.
I didn't think we had, which was fine. So, way back with humans 1.0, what happened to them?
They died.
Who made them?
Prometheus.
That guy.
Prometheus. And what 2 ingredients did he use?
Oh,
What killed them?
No, it's completely God. And so Prometheus made that first race of humans that all died off. Now Zeus is the new king of all the gods, and he wants a race to go around and crush also. The fact that he is the son of Kronos, who liked having anger issues, Zeus also has anger issues, and he was like, I need little people to go crush, because the squish between my toes is wonderful. So he goes and talks to Prometheus, and he's like, hey buddy, it's time to make me some little people, it's squishing time. And Prometheus goes, yeah, I can't do that. He goes, what? He goes, well, currently, you have me setting up your whole new government. I don't have time to help set up your new Olympian government and make people. It's a one or the other kind of thing. So which one do you want me doing? And Zeus goes, oh, that's a tough one. All right, you set up the government. I'll find somebody else to make people. He's like, if I can't use Prometheus to make humans 2.0, I'm going to get the next best thing. And that's when he goes to Epimetheus. He goes, Epimetheus. I was pretty happy on that too. He goes, how would you feel about making the new race of humans? And Epimetheus is like, oh, I got this one. And he was like, you sound so excited. He's like, He goes, well, you're not just making humans though. Turns out all of the animals died also. So you're going to have to make humans and all new animals too. Are you up for it? And Epimetheus is like, what can go wrong? I got this. And he goes, you're right. What could go wrong? He says, using foreshadowing. So he goes and says, Epimetheus, he goes, we're upgraded. Humans 2.0, we're no longer using mud and water. We're going to go to a special clay. And this clay was made so you could just like squish out whatever thing you wanted. And when you threw it down to Earth, when it made contact with Mama Earth, whoop, it would instantly come alive. No more magic dust, no more mud. We call this magic clay Play-Doh. I mean, they had a name for it, but for you guys, we'll just call it Play-Doh. And he goes, you're going to use this Play-Doh to create little shapes that are going to become the animals and become all the people. But since we're starting over, He goes, I have another thing for you. And he gets out this big tackle box and he sets it down. And Epimetheus is like, ooh, fishing? He goes, no. And he opens up the tackle box, and inside of it, instead of fishing stuff, are like piles of claws and eyes that can see in the dark, and different types of fur and scales and like muscles and legs. And he goes, now, whenever you want to make something, you pull off like whatever special ability you want, and you stick it into the clay, and when it hits the earth, it's going to then create whatever it is. This way, we can have a large variety of things out there. And Epimetheus is all excited about this, and he wonders, why would Summer have a question?
Like basically think of Toy Story, right?
Yeah, something like that. And so Epimetheus decides to make one of his first big kid decisions. He's like, ooh, I don't want to mess this up, especially because Zeus stresses, you cannot screw up making people. Humans are the most important thing because they're going to do sacrifices. And sacrifices are super important, which we're going to find out about in a moment. So he goes, when you make humans, those have to be perfect. Epimetheus goes, you know what? So that I don't mess this up, what I'm going to do
Start with the animals.
I'm going to start with all the animals first. That way I get a whole bunch of practice in it until I get good at it. And when I'm really good at making things, then I make humans. And he's like, all right, I got this. So he reaches down and grabs some of the Play-Doh, rolls out like a string, and he's like, that was easy.
Snake.
Reaches in, grabs some teeth, sticks them in there, grabs some scales, smears it on there, and makes
Snake.
a snake. And he's like, oh, look at that. He's just great, wings it down there, he's like, hits the earth, becomes snakes. And he makes a couple of those. He's like, all right, I got to get more creative. So he makes another snake. And this time he's like, you know what? Let's flatten that out a little bit, and let's take some legs and put some legs on the side of it. And scales seem a little much. Let's give it some like really hard skin instead. It makes or a lizard or a centipede. Sure. And so he ends up making a little lizard, and he's like, I'm getting really good at this whole thing's connected to snakes. So after he's tossed down a couple of lizards and alligators, he's like, let's try an animal. So he takes the snake again, and then puts a head on it, and then he goes ahead and puts a body on the bottom of the snake, and then gives it really long legs, and covers it in yellow, and it ends up making a giraffe. And he's like, it's like a walking snake. And then throws that one down there. And he likes the way that the giraffe flies through the air. And he's like, oh, that gave me an idea. So this time he takes some gray stuff, and he goes ahead and makes another snake, and he's like, ooh, well, let's make the snake a nose, because that's creative. And we're going to put another tiny snake on the butt of it, and then we're going to give it, ooh, this time let's give it some wings on its head, because that's just hilarious. And he ends up making
Dumbo.
a giant elephant, and he throws that one down, it's like, whee, and flies everywhere around. And he is giggling and having fun, and Epimetheus is like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And he starts getting down to like the last little bits. And he's like, ooh, you know what? Let's just stick some things together. So he reaches in there and grabs like a little animal body, and he's like, well, I've also got some duck parts. Let's see if the duck parts fit on there. And he puts some legs on it, and he's like, all right, well, this thing's kind of weird. But he was like, well, that's what happens when you have little leftover parts. So he's like, you know what? We should probably not put this where people can see it. So he takes that one and is like, we're just going to put that in Australia where no one goes. And like puts that one down there. And he's like, perfect. Nate. Realized he messed up. Because what did he do?
He used everything.
Forgot to make humans and used up all the good stuff. Then he was like, oh, Zeus is going to kill me. He's like looking around. He's like, all right, let's make out a human. So he squishes out like a little person. And he's like, all right, what can we put on this one? He's like, ooh, let's give it fur so it stays all warm in the wintertime. And he goes in the little fur area, and most of the fur is gone. So he pulls out some fur. And he's like, well, start on the head. But that's like, oh, it only covers the top of the head. Yeah, well, maybe no one will notice. Here, the males, we'll just put some on the back. And then from there, he goes like, well, we'll give it claws so we can like hunt and fight. And he goes into the little claw section, but there's nothing but like little claw dust. He's like, oh, we'll just smear the claw dust onto the end of the fingers. And then they can see in the dark, and they can go, yeah, only eyeballs I have left are really bad ones. They're going to have to wear glasses. We'll give them teeth where they can tear. Yeah, all the teeth I have left are really bad too. And when he gets done making humans, we're made of all the leftover parts because animals got all the good stuff. Humans are made of leftover bits by the god of idiots. And that was how the Greeks explained humans compared to animals. The only thing that he had a lot left over of, because he didn't know how to use, was brains. And so he had crammed a whole bunch of brains into the humans because he didn't really put those into animals. He's like, what good are brains? And so he went ahead and crammed those into the people.
But only certain.
And that's, well, only certain. And so that was how how they explained that you have all of these animals that have abilities and no humans. So at this point, Zeus comes down to talk to the humans that have been created, and he was like, well, you guys aren't perfect, but you'll do. He goes, humans, sacrifices are super important to the gods. We love sacrifices. And the humans go, yay! And they run over to their friend like this, and they stab their friend and pull out his heart and is like, sacrifice! Zeus goes, what? No! And slaps at the guy's hands like, what are you doing? He's like, sacrificing. He's like, not that sacrificing. We only want you to sacrifice food. That is it. Unless you eat people, then you have issues. What I want you to do is anytime you're going to eat a meal, you take part of the food and offer it up to the gods. Now, if you have a special request of something you want, you can do a special sacrifice to the gods, and that's fine with me. Because let's say that you're getting ready to run a race, and you want to make sure you run super fast. Who do you sacrifice to?
Hermes.
Hermes. And so the idea of sacrificing, he goes, here's what you do, humans. You will sacrifice to Hermes and hope that he answers your prayers. So you take your bowl of honeycomb, because I'm a honeycomb kid, and it's delicious. And you take your bowl of honeycomb, and then you would shake it up and go, Hermes, please help me run fast and beat all those other losers in this race. And then you take your bowl of honeycomb, and you go outside your house, and you put it on the ground outside your house. But Zeus was worried that other gods would get more popular than him, because it turns out this was their form of social media. The more sacrifices you got, the more popular you were. The more popular you were, the more you could taunt the other gods. And Zeus wanted to make sure he always stayed the most popular. So Zeus puts in a loophole. And he goes, humans, whenever you sacrifice to any specific god, you have to take a small pinch out and go, thank you for letting me live, king of the gods. And you just do a little sacrifice for the king of the gods every single time. So then you take your bowl of honeycomb, you go outside your back door and you go, Hermes, please answer my prayers. And you would put your little bowl outside. And if the bowl is empty the next morning, the gods have heard you and you are going to run fast. If the bowl is still full, that means the gods have ignored you and you're going to run like a broken turtle. Well, turns out, sometimes when humans went outside, the bowl was empty. And my question is, these gods are fake. So how would the bowl be empty the next day?
Animals.
Now, turns out the Greeks weren't completely stupid. And they knew that animals were coming to eat their little bowl of food. But it made sense in their religion. How would the animals eating it?
Because it's part of the gods turn into animals because their true form and you can't show
There you
it.
go. Because if you're praying up to Hermes, he's not going to show up out there like himself in a little toga going like, and eating your bowl of honeycomb. That'd be creepy. If you open up the door and you're like, what is that? Oh, hi Hermes. And you shut it. Instead, you open up the door and there's like a raccoon going, arr, arr, and you go, bad raccoon, boom, and punt it. That'd be bad because you're not punting a raccoon, you're punting Hermes. And he would be like, oh, bad choice. Or if you open up the back door and like homeless Joe is out there eating it, and you're like, homeless Joe! Same thing. If you attack homeless Joe, what's the worry? It could be Hermes who takes the form of homeless Joe.
Sticky Joe.
So that
What?
becomes the idea of how the sacrifices work. Anytime you want to ask something of the gods, you would sacrifice and put your bowl of food out there, and then a little pinch that goes over to some random person calling my phone. You would then sacrifice up to the gods, and you would sacrifice a little bit to the king of the gods. Because of that, sacrifices for them was popularity. Zeus loved sacrifices because he used it to taunt the other gods because who was the most popular god? Zeus! This is the way that he always kept being the most popular god because he was like, listen, I'm king because I'm the most popular god. And they're like, you're only the most popular because you're king. And he's like, I didn't make the rules. They go, what? Yes, he's a squirrel. Now, the second most popular god would be
Hermes.
Aries. It rotated. It depended. Because let's say it's fall and we want to make sure we have a whole
Demeter.
bunch of food, it would be
Meter.
Demeter. And then she would shoot up. And then we get towards February and you want to make sure Joey Jojo falls in love with you. And then Aphrodite would shoot up. And then it's right after May, and it's that
Hera.
nice time of the year, Hera would shoot. And so it was like this whole, it would rotate throughout the year, each one would sort of shoot up.
That's
When-
why every god has a month, right?
Not all, they're mostly connected to
Most
not Roman.
Planets.
planets.
The planets are connected to them. Norse mythology is where we get a lot of our months from and stuff like that. Yeah.
What's a minotaur?
Half man, half bull.
Okay, so what is,
It's over here in one of these
what is
pictures.
What's Pan?
Pan is half man, half goat.
Are we gonna
A
learn-
pan is
are we
also
gonna- are we
a
gonna
place.
learn about him?
Pan
Depends
is a
on how
place
far
and
we
a
get into
person.
things.
Is he boring?
Mr. Bobiak.
Pan?
Man is amazing.
No, he's a
That's
good god.
my one.
Summer?
Nothing special. That's a bad guy.
You could.
Like, player.
I mean, the Olympians were the main ones we prayed to, but the other ones, like we're going to talk about Nike at some point coming up, and you would pray to Nike at some things. And you might have like Nyx, the god of night, that you would pray to, or the god of Morpheus, the god of sleep. So there's other ones you might pray to, but these were the main ones you would pray to from there. So, to set up proper sacrifices, now that humans understand how important sacrifices are, Zeus comes down to confront a group of humans. And he goes, all right, anytime that you go out and kill an animal to honor the gods, half of the animal has to be given to the gods as a sacrifice. If not, we get grump grump and we come down at you. And they go, okay. They go, how do we sacrifice an animal to you? He goes, let me show you. And he picks up a big cow. And he puts the cow down in front of these humans. He gives a little squeeze. He goes, meow, meow, and he sets the cow down. He goes, all right, I want you to split this cow into 2 separate piles. Then I'm going to come back in a little bit, and I'm going to pick one pile that you always give to the gods, and one pile that you get to keep yourself. But you get to make the 2 piles. Quick timeout. I don't know if you guys have siblings, but a thing that my mom did when I was a kid, like whenever she would give us one candy bar, one of us got to break the candy bar, and then the other person got to choose which side of the candy bar that you wanted. Because if not, being the older sibling, I would break the candy bar, and I would get this piece, and my younger brother would get this piece. And I told him it was fair because I said so. And then my mom would get involved, and she was like, one of you can break it, and the other one gets to choose. And I'm like, that's not fair, because I'm not winning. That's what Zeus does. He goes, you make the 2 piles, but I pick who gets which pile. And the humans go, okay. So they start breaking the cow down into its basic cow parts. They grab all the skin and go, and rip all the skin off and throw it over to the side and make a big leather coat. After we rip the skin off, what comes next? All the meat. And they take all the hamburgers and steak, and they throw the hamburgers and steak over into another pile. After hamburgers and steak, we get
Organs.
close. We'll get there in a second. You're one ahead of me.
No,
The bones. And then between, because most kids jump to the bones first. And then between the bones and the meat is. And so this is where we get stuff like the organs and the gooey bits inside of you.
Yummy.
A lot of this is
Yeah, buddy,
fat.
you're just-
The jiggly stuff that you have. Now, I don't know how often you guys actually cook food, like with parents, but fat, when you first see it, is covered in oil. Like steak, before you cook it, it has fat on it and it has oil on it. Chicken, before you cook it, fat, oil. Have you guys ever seen, like on the road, where it has all these little rainbowy things? That's oil that's dropped out of a car. Oil naturally refracts light into a rainbow. If you were to take out your little jiggly bits and throw them down, it would look like rainbow goo. So like when you pull it out, because it has the fat in it, I don't recommend you go home like, rainbow goo, and then that's not going to work out. But if you see fat, it looks like rainbow goo. So all of the guts look like a big pile of rainbow goo. And the humans see these 4 different piles that they've made. And they're like, well, 2 of these would be really good, and 2 of these are kind of a waste. You guys, most of you guys, some of you guys are smarter than the humans. So which ones should they take?
The rainbow
organs
organs
and
and meat.
Yeah, they want the meat because you can eat food.
And the skin.
And the skin so you can make clothing and impress chicks.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is the bones are not really useful, and neither is this bit. But who made this race of humans?
Epimetheus.
So there's some issues. The humans see these 4 piles and they're like,
Whoa, rainbow
what
goo.
should we? and then one of them picks up the giant leg bone. And it's like, donk, and hits his friend. He falls down. He's like, oh, a wacky stick. That's the best thing ever. And then one of his friends picks up the big pile of rainbow goo, and he's like, flat, and it was everywhere. And like, oh, that's great. And another one goes over and takes the bone and dips it into the rainbow goo, and he's like, rainbow stick! And they have a big rainbow stick fight, like running around hitting each other. And like, this is the best thing ever. Like, all right, so we've made our 2 piles. We're going to go ahead and take all of the rainbow goo, cover the bones, and make rainbow sticks. And then we're going to take all of the hamburgers and all of the coats and put them into a giant pile. And then that's where we have to stop. Friday, we'll find out what happens with rainbow sticks.